There's been a lot of drama. Hey, what's up, guys? Frugalnauts here, and well, we got some really interesting news for our live stream, and well, you've probably seen me for the second time today, which I'm sure is something, maybe a little bit of a surprise. I got some good news, some bad news. Good news is prices are going upward again. That's nice to see. Bad news is some news that Silvio Macaulay dropped in his interview, where he shed more light on fiat chain, and I think maybe it doesn't lead into some really good things. Clouded Vibe says, "Sup fam, what's going on? Hey, sorry, I was on earlier and I hadn't not gotten I forgot I had a whole bunch. There's usually a whole bunch of stuff you have to set up after your live stream. And obviously you don't want to do that when you're trying to talk to the stream and things like that. So I usually do that little intro screen, but yeah, it's going to be really interesting, and we'll start with the charts and things like that. We'll go through all that. Very quiet on YouTube today. Most of our viewers appear to be on X, and we got a few on Kick. We are live on YouTube, X, and Kick, so be sure to check that out. And if wherever you are, leave a chat. I like to see where people are. I see chats from both from YouTube, from Kick, and from X. So make sure to leave those chats and I will see them. Probably not a super long live stream. I guess we're going to go about an hour. And we had a very interesting video today reacting to Jerry Chu and some of the things he said around this current controversy with Algorand and TravelX leaving and people wondering what the future is. And I wish I had better news, but this latest interview with Silvio Macaulay, it's a little bit disturbing because it sounds like it confirms a lot of the things that I've been saying, that because people didn't really understand my point. I don't think a lot of people understood my point when I was talking about why TravelX leaving was a big deal. I actually think it would have been better if they were leaving for another chain, because that's addressable. If they were leaving for another chain, that means they still want to be on public blockchains, and Algorand just need to do something better, right? But this, by not wanting to be on a chain at all, to be on a private blockchain instead, and this combined with what Silvio said, I think Silvio saw something that I see too. I don't mean to, that sounds like really arrogant, but what I mean is I think the thing he saw coming is the thing I see now, or that I'm concerned about anyway. And well, we'll dive into that when we get there. So anyway, why don't we just dive right into the charts, because at least we got some good news here, right? Let's move things around here a little bit, and I'm actually gonna put myself at the top for this just because it's a little bit easier. Yeah, so we got Bitcoin at 107, almost 108, and it was actually above. It doesn't really show up on the 7-day chart, which you can't see on your screen anyway, but it actually is down a little bit on the 7-day even. And it's been popping back down a little bit in the last hour. It was actually above 108. In fact, we can take a look at that. Is this going to show it to you? Let me switch back to here. We do not need, let's go to the 7-day. Yeah, I mean, you can see it just dropped down again. It was actually getting close to that 109 level and then just kind of popped down a little bit. By the way, apologies. I think we got a thunderstorm going on here, so I don't think you can hear it. I can't even hear it actually, but if the power goes out and I'm offline, that's why. So, it was nice. It was nice to wake up and see some green candles for a change. As far as when all this is we're going to get that nice super bull run when everything is taking off and we're all super excited. I don't really know. I don't really know when that's going to be, if that's even going to happen. I mean, it might. Oh, I forgot this. Hold on. I got to tweet out. Well, I'll just do it in front of you. That's fine. It's Joey Swole. There we go. Yeah, let the people know we're here. And by the way, before I forget, give a big shout out to Non-Fungible Domains, our sponsor, one of our channel sponsors. With that, get that nice .algo address, makes doing things in Algorand so much easier. And to Marcus Aurelius, they're spreading this wisdom of stoicism, one meme coin and NFT project at a time. So I'd love to see what they're doing. All good, both good projects. Check them out in the description below. And let's see here. And by the way, thanks for watching on X. I really hope that Asmongold and Elon can work something out to kind of build out the live stream capabilities of X, because my biggest audience is always on X, but it's not monetizable in any way. And I would like to see that changed. I think it's great because I actually get a nice sizable audience on X, but happen to have everyone here on Kick and YouTube as well. And I'm trying to grow both of those. So all good. Yeah, and Ethereum, Ethereum was up over 2,600 for a while there, kind of fell back down. Well, why don't we just look at, well, first off, yeah, we've been in neutral territory for greed. So the Fear Greed Index been in neutral. Market cap overall is up 1.81%. And, we're at 3.34 trillion. Let's think about that for a second, how much money that actually is. And then think about it, how much is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is 2.1 trillion of that. Bitcoin is most of the market cap. And think about that. Let that settle in for a little bit. Because, I think we don't appreciate how important Bitcoin still is to the space. You want to know why everything follows Bitcoin? Because it's most of the market. Coin market cap at 2.13%. So actually outpacing the overall crypto market. Super interesting there. And who's winning on the 24-hour? Let's see. We've got Aerodrome Finance. There's one I haven't heard of before. Followed by Pendle, Uniswap, Caspa. I heard someone talking about Caspa earlier today. Aptos, Stacks, XRP, Hyperliquid, Pudgy Penguins, Curved Out, Injective, Near Protocol having a nice bump. That's, well, actually I have XRP. So XRP and Near are the only two out of those top, say 10, not even 10, top 12, I guess. If we go all the way to 15, we got Chainlink at 14. So I got another one there. That's crazy. Yeah, Cosmos, I got that one. Got some Cosmos. I actually have a little Ondo. I forgot I bought a little bit of Ondo. Yeah, Bitcoin's not even, 33rd in terms of gainers. There's Algorand at 1.86%. Yeah, back under, oops, sorry. Here it is. Back under 18 cents. Jeezy Weezy says, how does the Genius Act affect Algorand? We can maybe look at that later. Yeah, it'll be interesting because it mostly pertains to stable coins as I understand it, but we can dive into that a little more. Oh, look, Polygon. Dude, I don't even want to talk about Polygon, man. What is showing up on here? Why is it so low? It's weird. See, and I usually have, it does this stupid thing. I really like Windows 11 overall. But it does this, oh, come on. It does this weird thing where if you click it a certain way, it wants to expand it all the way to the bottom, and then it kind of screws up my live streaming here. Any losers? Let's see if there's any losers on the 24. Yeah, Pi is like the top one in the 100. It's crazy. I had been mining Pi a really long time ago, like well before the pandemic, and then all of a sudden, I just thought it was a dead project. I forgot all about it, and there it is. Pepe, Tether Gold. I'm surprised Pepe lost, actually. It looks like a lot of the meme coins didn't do so well. There's Unisud Leo. Now, remember how I said that Unisud Leo tends to move against the market? I mean, there it is. That's what it's doing. KuCoin down. Quant down a little bit. And then that's kind of the end. Everything else is up. Obviously, US dollar coin sitting at $1. Stable, 0%. And then we get into, the ones that are, well, all the USDs, of course. And then, yeah, so not too much down. Most projects are up right now. And then how about on the 7-day? Yeah, still that Aerodrome Finance. I don't know anything about this. See, they give an explanation on here. That would be a really nice thing if they had, hey, I guess there's an about, huh? Aerodrome Finance is a next generation AMM, it's automatic market maker, to serve as Base's central liquidity hub, combining a powerful liquid incentive engine, vote lock governance model, and friendly user experience. Okay, so it's a Base thing. Gotcha. Should talk to Will and Crypto for Change about that. They've been a little quiet. I haven't heard much out of either of them lately. Anyway, I was just curious. So this is the weekly. Who's doing well in the weekly? AB. That's another one. Haven't heard of it. Jito, Kaya, Hyperliquid, Sky. That Sky one keeps popping up. That's kind of a newer one in the top 100 as well. Very interesting. It's kind of crazy. You're not seeing a lot of the old school ones do well right now. So, and then how about anyone like really down on the week? Celestia. Dog with Hat, man, I whiffed so bad on Dog with Hat. I bought totally at the wrong time. Stupid. I just did it on a whim. I shouldn't have. I should probably buy back in a little bit so I can lower my costs. Yeah. So otherwise, Story, WorldCoin, Pepe, Quant, and Immutable X all down. Render down, Injective down on the week. This is all weekly charts, by the way. Floki, Sonic, Caspa, even Hedera, Hedera's down like 12. Well, Hedera's down to like 15 cents, man. What's its market cap right now? 21. That's not so good for Hedera. Gala down to 1.5 cents. Hey, Snail Groceries, otherwise known as Gary here. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate that. It says thanks for all you do. I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate that a lot. And I appreciate the Gary. I haven't like transferred it to my inbox. So I was going to do a story today on switching back from first off, how my Ready pool, I guess I'm giving away the surprise a little bit, but I'm talking about how my Ready pool experiment went and then why I switched back, because I switched back on Sunday. Avalanche, Zcash. Well, hey, at least Algorand isn't in the top losers for the week. Sui is, though, down to 24th, but losing 10% on the week, back to around $3. So Sui's price really hasn't recovered much since they took those very centralized efforts to recover money, which, it's like, I'm not rooting for the bad guys exactly, but also, like, if you're going to be decentralized, you have to be decentralized. That means you take the good with the bad. Sorry. Yeah, so Algorand, not in double digits at least, quite a far down the list of losers for the week, and pretty much everything's down on the week. I mean, if you go all the way to the bottom, you got a couple things that are doing okay, like Tether Gold, Unisud Leo, Fartcoin, the Sky one. Okay, anyway, yeah, most of them are down on the week, so that's that. And then why don't we go to let's go look at the Algorand specific charts. Oh, it's interesting because this one has Algorand at 18 cents. The other one had it actually down. Tiny like 1.8, 1.9 if you round up cents. So Tiny is still out below that 2 cent threshold. I don't know if there's a lot of hope for it to not be that either. Yeah, but most things, the general pattern is they're all pretty much up today, and all down on the week. Not a huge surprise. Well, this one won't stick to the top 100, so Goanna. Oh, there's a Goanna, a Gona. That's not even spelled right, is it? Well, we'll just go to the top here. Top gainers, Loot Wallet. That can't be the actual Loot token for the Loot Wallet, is it? It didn't launch on Rug Ninja. Doesn't have a picture even. I'm very skeptical. There is Mad. I think, isn't that it's like Chuckle Cartel on X, I think, does that one. They're pretty funny. There's something called Bummer is up. Alpha Arcade doing all right. And actually Tani is up a little bit on the day. Juan not do. That's right. I haven't made my daily Juan post in a while. That is one candle down. Let's zoom in a little bit because it always starts out on the weekly. So, you know, Juan is starting to do kind of what I said it would do. It just took longer. It looked like it was going to, you know, completely go on, crush my expectations here because I thought, oh, oops, now's the time down, and it went straight back up instead. Now you're starting to see that fall off again. So, but hey, it's still a lot higher than it launched from. So, you know, we'll see. Snail says I went through the holder list earlier and people are really bag holding. We'll see what happens. Which one? Munko. Oh, Munko. Yes. I did hold on to some Munko. Where's Munko? Where are you, Munko? Here's Munko. Man, not helping it much though. This is what I'm talking about. This is the typical boot pattern. Straight up and then straight down. But we can go to the 4-hour chart and get a little bit of clarity. You know, and this is just a longer version of what we saw. Actually, I want to go to like the daily chart. That might give us a little more. This happens with all these coins. You get a lot of euphoria. Because meme coins, it's all about keeping the name in front of people, right? So this thing, it pump, and then eventually some new coin gets everyone's attention and it just falls back down. And so it's been sitting at what? Is this actual 6 cents, I think? Snail says you've been spot on for months about that boot pattern. Yeah, and I totally made up. It's something I totally made up. It just looks like a boot, you know? Let's go back to the weekly, you know, because right here's the heel of, here's the leg of the boot, and then here's the little toe. This one's got a little like curled up toe, I guess. So yeah, I know I call it like the boot, or you know, I call it like the old woman in the shoe pattern too, I guess, if I wanted to. Yeah, it is my own invention, but just because it looks like, and they all do that. All these ASAs do this. So you could buy down here, and then who knows, right? Like you wouldn't at least lose your shirt. But if you don't get in like super duper early on these coins, there's kind of no point. I mean, you're almost better off just sniping. I know people don't like that, but what else are you gonna do? Let's take a look at Alpha Arcade here. Alpha is the one coin that has bucked my expectation. Well, that's 4 hour. Actually, let's go back to the daily chart is best for showing this. Look at this. This is the weirdest pattern. It's almost completely flat. My understanding is they do something very specific to try to keep the price stable. But you know what I like about Alpha? What I like about Alpha is you can hold Alpha and you get rewards in US dollar coin. So I hold some Alpha, like about $100 worth, and I'll get like, And by the way, it's like they don't just combine it. This is what's really interesting. They don't just combine it so that you get one payout that grows the more you buy. You get payout for each little bit you bought. It's got to be well, I guess it's algorithmic. I'm sure they don't have a way of, or, automated, I guess. I'm sure they don't they aren't manually going in and doing it, but I thought, if you just added it would just be a bigger amount. So I got about $100 worth of alpha, and I've been getting like 2 cents for each of these payouts. So if you get like a few of those a month, I mean, you can figure out it's like more than, in fact, yeah, I didn't update it. I'd take some time to show you guys, but I didn't update it yet. But you get these, you're getting like 2-3 cents off of $100, and you can see that it would add up pretty soon. So at 10,000, you'd be getting like $2, and yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's not as good as I'm making on. I had to do some math on that. I've been trying to decide because I thought, well, if you can just hold alpha, maybe that's a really good strategy to grow, just to have some passive income coming in. I don't think I think alpha's gonna stay stable, and that makes it a really good vehicle, because if this stays stable, you don't lose your principal value, and then you're just gaining yield. This is the big challenge with DeFi. No matter what platform you're on, it doesn't matter if it's Algorand or Hedera or XRP, any of them. If you're holding DeFi, if you can, your big change is principal. Your big challenge, excuse me. It's been a long day. Your big challenge is principal preservation, because so people, I see these pools with like 2 volatile ASAs. I'm like, I'm not touching those. Are you kidding me? Because we showed from our experiment you can lose way more in capital depreciation than you'll gain in yield, even if you're getting like thousands %. There was a time I was getting like thousands of % on Yieldly on some rando coin, but the coin dropped so much it didn't matter. My principal loss made up way more than made up for the coins that I was gaining, because it hits you on both your principal and it hits you on your rewards if you're earning in that coin, which is kind of why I like this one does USDC, right? That's better. And by the way, those rewards, this is the other thing I like about this one. They really should become a sponsor. Here, I can put this, I should put my my cam down here. But one of the things I really like about Alpha 2 is that you're getting it in USDC. So you kind of stay stable with the principal and you earn USDC, and that's very nice. Oh, and then the thing I like about it the most is that the rewards aren't just like, hey, we need to like incentivize people, so we're just going to take this money that we got and give it to people. What you're getting is a cut of the fees from the Alpha Arcade prediction market. So it's real profits that are coming in. And Chips did this too, in a way, but you had to hold it depends on, you can hold chips and get some, you get more if you have an NFT, but you also have to like register it every week, which is kind of annoying. I think it should just be automatic. So yeah, that's Alpha. Oops, wrong one. I was trying to think if there's much else to talk about. I guess not really. Although I will say Compex token had a really nice, here, I'll pull that up a little bit more. Compex Oak token had a really nice week, so that's good to see. As did Alpha. Alpha Arcade did too. Nico, yeah, I've lost a lot of money in Nico. Well, I shouldn't. Wait, is it 4 cents? What does it mean when they have that little... What is it actually? This little subscript here. Because it's not actually 4 cents, right? Is it? Oh, is it 4 zeros? Is that what that's what the shorthand is for? I bet that's what it is. Sean Vogel says, hold on, boys and girls, the bull run's coming. Boy, I sure hope so. Because, man, this has got to be the worst wait I've ever had for one. But you think about it, like 2021 was really the kickoff. And a lot of it was later in 2021. So if you think that the markets have been pushed back every cycle, it could happen. But I also think we're going to have a flattening cycle. Yeah, so let me grab a drink of water. So I really want to talk about this interview with Sylvia Macaulay. So let's find this. I think I bookmarked it. I hope. I did not. Okay, hold on. So the Algorand Foundation shared this. Oh, by the way, Algorand robot. I can speak, right? Diamond Hand says snail. Algorand roadmap drops in July. And apparently there was this big thing between technologies and foundation about when the roadmap would drop, but that's not really. All right, here's what we're talking about. This is right from the Algorand Foundation, and I think this is relevant for all utility chains. So let's pay attention here a little bit. Fiat chain is a separate technology from Algorand. However, the fiat chain would benefit all blockchain networks, and it would be particularly beneficial to Algorand. Yet, well, let's see. Okay, so for those that don't know, Rachel Wolfson got an interview with Sylvia Macaulay for Crypto News. We can move this over a little bit. And I remember seeing this. Tweet. Well, let's just see what the story has to say, and we'll react to it. Okay. And by the way, guys, if you haven't hit the like, if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't hit the like and or the subscribe button, I would really love it. If you do that, let's get those likes up so we can get this video to more people, because I think this has to go out to a lot of people. We got to talk about this. This is a pretty important topic, and so if you do that, if you're on Kick, you know, we could use a comment or two, so hit us up there with a comment. And if you're watching on X, give the video a like. I think you can hit the like button down below, maybe retweet it even to show it to more people if possible. I think you can do that right from the main screen if you want. So, okay, so Sylvia Macaulay is a technologist and MIT professor who is well known for founding Algorand, a layer 1 autonomous and decentralized blockchain network. Most recently, Macaulay has been working hard on developing a new technology called fiat chain. Now, we covered him announcing fiat chain, and like I said at the time, I felt like I had the basic gist of it, that there's sort of this fiat chain that institutions would use where they don't have to use crypto. We'll address that because that's kind of a key point, right? And then this would allow them somehow to gain some of the benefits of, say, Algorand or Chainlink or others without actually having to invest in it. And I find this very strange, to be honest. I'm not sure how that's going to work. It sounds kind of like almost like it's Chainlink, where it's an interoperability layer, but I don't feel like he exactly explained it well. Or maybe the idea is he left a lot of questions, but he's going to speak about it here. So anyway, while Macaulay has been relatively quiet about fiat chain, he recently spoke about the technology during Paris Blockchain Week 2025. In his keynote, the technologist revealed that the fiat chain is a public blockchain geared towards institutions. Crypto News was fortunate to sit down with Macaulay for an exclusive interview during Proof of Talk 2025 to further discuss fiat chain and to understand how the technology works, its use cases, and how it may relate to Algorand. So Crypto News, or Rachel, I guess, Rachel Wolfson says, what exactly is fiat chain? It says fiat chain is a blockchain network that is secure and public. There is no cryptocurrency associated with fiat chain, which, you know, we covered earlier. I'm a big believer in public chains. A private blockchain without cryptocurrency is possible, but this is not what the world needs. But apparently it's what it's going for. I will say that there's, I mean, he can say this, but like a lot of companies, you might not realize this, a lot of companies are actually using private blockchains. And he kind of explains why, you know, why it matters, but we just saw TravelX is going to a private blockchain, but they're not the only one. Like, you know, companies like Target and Walmart, I think Walmart specifically has blockchain for their inventory, but it's a private blockchain. It's not a public one. And Well, I'll get into it later. Secondly, fiat chain has an architecture that allows it to be self-stable long-term so that consensus can go on forever. And he says, please explain why you've created fiat chain. Sylvia Macaulay says, institutions have not yet come on chain, even though blockchain is the perfect vehicle for institutions seeking transparency, efficiency, and more. Well, that's the thing, though. I think a lot of them aren't seeking transparency. You know, I was just the example I just gave. If I have an inventory management system, why do I want that to be public? And so when you think about it, why would these companies want their information to be public? Like, what good does it do them? I mean, there's certain instances where maybe they do, but for the most part, I think they don't. I think that's what we learned from TravelX and other situations like this. I just don't think they want that. So you can say it's good for them if they're seeking that, but I think a lot of them just aren't seeking transparency. They probably are seeking efficiency, but they get that with the private chain. I don't think the private chain is inefficient. Anyway, it says, I started thinking about this problem and considered 3 reasons as to why this is the case. One is regulatory. The crypto blockchain market is still unregulated. I think the Trump administration wants to regulate the industry, but they have not done it yet. And that is like, aren't we supposed to have heard from that by now? Like, isn't that supposed to be solved already? Anyway, regulation prevents regulated entities from touching crypto, and a lot of them just won't, especially the airline industry, as we just saw. Secondly, security remains an issue, especially for institutions. And the third challenge is sovereignty. For instance, if you have a nation with a sovereign currency, the last thing you want to do is tell citizens to buy a foreign currency like cryptocurrency to access a national currency. So he says all of these 3 things are all preventing blockchain from serving the assets of the world. Now that's a pretty damning indictment of blockchains as they stand. Now he says he's going to fix this because he's going to introduce this fiat chain, and we'll be getting into that in a second here. So Rachel asked, is fiat chain part of Algorand? Fiat chain is separate technology from Algorand. However, while fiat chain would benefit all blockchain networks, it would be particularly beneficial to Algorand. But why? Why is it particularly beneficial to Algorand? It says, given that the fiat chain is a consensus mechanism, has a consensus mechanism, the ability to interact with other blockchains, we can eventually bring all the world's assets on chain. This would mean that everybody in the blockchain ecosystem benefits. Once you have a blockchain that can bring institutions to deploy their assets on chain, then you bridge with other blockchain networks where assets are best served for what an institution wants to do. I think this is going to be big for different blockchains, but more so for Algorand. Algorand has a strong decentralized network connected to fiat chain, and connected to fiat chain has the potential to become the preferred gateway for bridging. Yeah, so I think I was thinking about it correctly, that this is sort of a bridge to other chains without actually having to touch it. But I just don't know. I don't know. I question the premise. Because I question that let's see, where these we can eventually bring all the world's assets on chain. I don't know that everybody wants all the assets on chain. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know that they all want it to be on chain. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I mean, maybe it's just the fact that they don't want to be associated with crypto itself. In which case, like, this would be a great idea, and Algorand would have a strong case to be made. So I see what he's saying, but I wonder. So Rachel asks, if fiat chain doesn't use cryptocurrency, how does it work? What are the use cases? So the use case for fiat chain is really to bring institutional assets on chain. If you bring institutional assets to a blockchain, the developers will then follow. Again, I just don't know if they want to do that, but there are great use cases for blockchain today that are unfortunately only leveraged for simple applications. Most of these are creative, but if you have real assets on chain, the entire industry is going to remain crypto to crypto. Which I think it is. I think there's a strong chance that that's what's going to be. It'll be limited. I think it'll be limited. I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now, unless he knows something I don't, which he might. I don't see him answering the question, like, if there's a lot of demand for industry to have all their assets on chain. I just don't know if there is. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't seen it yet. Well, here she asks, can you please give an example of an institutional asset? Yes, just imagine you're a token company that wants to issue a bond. However, it's a problem for the company to touch crypto because it's regulated. It's weird that you're a token company. Like well, okay, whatever. I would just say like a regular company that wants to issue a bond, but they want to put it on the token, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, the market wants certainty. Companies are better off issuing a bond on blockchain because blockchain is unbeatable for tokenization. If I were an institution and wanted to issue a bond, I would use blockchain if I was sure that the consensus behind the network was long-term and accessible. Once you have bonds on chain, everyone will benefit no matter what. Our worst enemy is keeping assets off chain. Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just not sure everybody wants to put their assets on chain. And I say, would you say tokenization of institutional assets is the main goal behind fiat chain? He says, no, it is just one goal. I want to create a blockchain where there can be developers working alongside big institutions. Every blockchain currently welcomes developers, but the institutions are not coming. That's true. That's true. We can partly blame regulations. Fiat chain aims to solve this problem. I'm not sure because I don't know that you see this massive uptick even when you go to, like, say, other countries where, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't feel like you see a lot of adoption in other countries where they don't have as many regulations. How does fiat chain use blockchain without cryptocurrency? Now, this is a really important question. I'm glad Rachel asked this. Silvio says it's not so easy. Every blockchain has a cryptocurrency associated with it because of security. For instance, a public blockchain is not permissioned, meaning anyone can join the network in the consensus of the chain. Also, while the blockchain network is public, no one knows who is running the chain, so if the actors of the chain begin to take actions that are detrimental, there is no remedy. The most dangerous action here is that you can't pin down bad actors, so they can easily harm the network. This is why the industry created a consensus that hand in glove matched with a cryptocurrency. So if you want to participate in the consensus of a network, you must have a good number of native tokens matching the consensus, which, you know, on Algorand, if you have 30,000 algo, you can run one of the nodes. So if you hurt the chain, you hurt your own crypto holdings. This is a very key point because people have asked me, well, why do you need crypto? Why can't you just have the blockchain? And this is why, because this like incentivizes you not to hurt your own chain because you're basically hurting your own crypto. So this is the reason why every public chain has a cryptocurrency. It's a security reason. But unfortunately, the security solution has introduced all types of challenges. For instance, if crypto assets become volatile, anyone may be able to buy all assets, weakening the security of the chain. There must be another way to secure consensus other than traditional method of proof of stake blockchains. Fiat chain has a consensus mechanism without cryptocurrency. You can't replace consensus with fiat currency. So, she asked, what is the consensus mechanism for fiat chain? That's a good question. It's easier to describe the tip of the iceberg right now. Fiat chain will have a board of validators that will last for at least one quarter. Every quarter, there will be a new board of validators or individuals who want to reapply again. You also need to pay a fee to become a validator. Well, where would those individuals come from? I'm guessing they're going to come from the company. And if that's the case, presumably the company would that's using the fiat chain would or is it all? I guess it'd all be one fiat chain. So, very interesting. I guess the big thing I'm still like a little messed up on is I don't understand. If you've got this fiat chain, I don't know why you need Algorand or any of the other chains. This is what I just don't really understand yet. Anyway, you also need to pay a fee to become a validator. Validators make money off network fees paid in stablecoins. Fiat chain replaces gas with stablecoins. We can then look at all the stablecoins that have been paid from fees over the last quarter. If the fees are going to be the same during the next quarter, then validators can know if they will earn a significant amount. So it's stable coins. It's not USD, but it's stable coins. And it has to be stable to something. So I'm guessing it's going to be USD type stable coins like USDC. So basically it's dollars, even though it's not, you know, cash exactly. But basically it's dollars. It's a fiat, because it is a fiat chain, right? But this isn't enough. There is a specific formula to determine how many validators are needed each quarter. For instance, assume the network fees are large, then we can determine how much validators will earn. But what if the fees in the next quarter drop by at least 50%? Fees are approximate for the usage of the chain, and the chain is essentially an infrastructure that is not volatile. Therefore, you can look at the previous quarter and establish a formula for how many validators the network will need. Now, assume that we have fees increased by 10%, then you need 10% more validators than last time. We'll also need a loyalty program for validators. We will first ask previous validators if they want to opt in and be validators. If the majority decides to continue, that is great, but the network must still carefully choose its board members. But who's doing the choosing? I'm still a little confused by all this. This means that the network has to choose validators at random. This is where Algorand comes in. Algorand has a verifiable random function, which is a way to make random choices and then prove it's the correct random choice for a specific input. Fiat chain will have a verifiable lottery to decide who should come in and protect the network. I also believe that the fiat chain will have an honest majority of validators each time network fees increase. Will fiat chain have a crypto associated with it? The fees associated with fiat chain need to be paid in stablecoins. If there are trillions of real-world assets on chain, you need to buy and sell those using stablecoins. This will also create an even bigger demand for stablecoins. I am also agnostic in terms of what stablecoin will be used with fiat chain. You can imagine two different worlds here, one where a dollar-backed stablecoin is used, and the other where a euro-backed stablecoin is used. You can have two separate chains and bridge these together, and there can be an oracle that both parties trust with a pool of dollars or euros. I am being very agnostic here, as fiat chain doesn't care which stablecoin is used. It should just be able to bridge to a decentralized manner with trusted witnesses. I think it does matter, though. I think if you use US dollar coin as your stablecoin, then more US users are probably going to be interested in it than if it's euros. Because if I'm earning in euros, I have to go swap that. And it's not the biggest deal. It's just a little bit of friction, but that little bit of friction can have a little bit of influence. So I think it kind of does matter. And then you have to trust that you have to trust that stablecoin is going to be done in a stable way. You know, it's done in a sustainable way. It's very interesting. Okay. Would fiat chain have its own stablecoin? Fiat chain is just a technology. It is a public chain that is self-stabilizing forever, that doesn't become insecure with a cryptocurrency that falters. However, if I were a stablecoin provider, I'd be delighted to see that there was a blockchain that works independently without the ups and downs or security issues associated with cryptocurrency. I'm agnostic and welcome different stablecoins. And I guess there could be multiple ones, right? Is fiat chain just a concept for now? It says it's a technology. Currently, I still have to explain the technology and let people understand it. I think people are more open to new technology if you take time to absorb it. Currently, I am focused on developing the technology. Deploying it is the next step. It says, why did you come up with fiat chain, and was it a recent development? It is a recent development. I got frustrated by the fact that there is all this beautiful technology, yet none have been as successful as I expected. So you know that includes Algorand, right? But honestly, I think we're talking about all the utility coins. The utility demand just isn't there, is what he's saying. That doesn't matter if it's Algorand or Hedera or XRP. The demand is not what I think a lot of people thought it would be, including Silvio. As soon as I became frustrated by all the assets not being on chain, I felt as if the technology was the missing element. Are you still focused on Algorand? I think the founders of decentralized technology have to let the ecosystem take over in order for it to remain decentralized. Yeah, so what do you guys think about this? Because I don't know. I feel like I said, I feel like he's talking about a lot of stuff that we brought up during the whole Travel X thing. And I know people are getting mad about me harping on that, but I think that was an illustration of what Silvio's talking about, is that the adoption just hasn't really been there, right? Snail says we haven't seen a bank failure in a while. Yeah, well, it depends on what you mean by a while. Like, wasn't that what year was what year were those bank failures? Like 2021, something like that. I mean, I think he seems to see the same thing I see, that the adoption just doesn't, it just hasn't happened the way I think a lot of people thought. And like he said, he thought all assets would be on chain by now. It doesn't appear that that's the case. It appears to be not going nearly as well as we thought. And I think that reflects some of the responses. So let's go look at what people said. Yeah, Algorand report highlighted the, as soon as I became frustrated by all assets not being on chain, I felt as if the technology was the missing element. Silvio is a scholar, a renowned cryptographer, but he does not have the business acumen to push a new technology to market. Well, he wasn't just talking about Algorand, though. He's talking about all this. He's talking about, yeah, Snail says the bank failure would bring more attention. He's talking about all the technology and how all assets aren't on chain. He's not just talking about, I think this is a little, I actually think this is a little short-sighted. Can evolve to attract institutions, Ripple, Stellar, Solana, they're evolving, disappointed as Beep. I know I'm not the only one. 2019 and now Silvio to ditch us all by the roadside. Lizard King says, has any laws been passed? Maybe you're expecting something that isn't possible yet. That's a good point. I mean, the regulations aren't there, but I'm just not sure the demand is there anyway. And even if America passes, you know, we're only one country. Even if we pass those laws, there's still a ton of other countries, and then states have their own regulations too. So that's another thing to think about. I think what he's saying is like, well, let's get something that just goes around all the regulations so it's not even an issue. How is it most beneficial for Algo? He basically just ditched Algorand for a new coin. Well, it's not a new coin. Just to be clear. Oh, I have to readjust this. Hold on. Not a new, there is no coin. That's sort of the point. There's stable coins, but those are rewards. But there is no new coin with fiat currency. Let's see what else we got. So Silvio Macaulay basically said Algorand has gone as far as it can, and it can attract institutions. And he's not just talking about Algorand. Is abandoning Algorand to create technology for a fiat chain and will then later figure out how to implement it. That's not exactly what he said, but kind of. And he said he believes it'll actually be very beneficial for Algorand. So if we're going to be fair to what he's actually saying, I mean, you might disagree with it and you think this, but if you're going by what he actually says, he believes that Algorand will benefit from this more than other chains will, but all the chains should benefit. That means Hedera, that means XRP, that means all of them. Even Solana. A section where he muses that there's a specific formula to determine how many validators are needed each quarter, etc., etc. Sounds like someone too smart for his own good. He's twisting himself into some convoluted thought experiment about strange validator rotation, blah, blah, God knows what. So not very disappointed. He says, couldn't be much more disappointed. Lame, algo, slap in the face to all of us who are inspired by his original lectures. I think it's good to change your mind if you believe it's different. This is funny. It's a separate technology from Algorand. However, it could be particularly beneficial to Algorand. Yeah, I get it. And then he shares a little ship sinking thing. LFG Algo. Thank God I got in super low. Still in profit. Can't wait to ditch this BS. Can you guys ditch Algo like Silvio? That'd be nice. Jeez. Philip Riley, Algo #1. Well, that's good. Keep the, keep the optimism there. And good to have you here, by the way. Snail laughs too. Oh, looks like they caught Vance Bolter in Minnesota. Let's see. This made everything 10 times worse. Sylvia doesn't sound optimistic about the future of Algorand. How is no one questioning about him about his absence? Well, I mean, he said he feels like he should be able to start it and then pass it on. You know, and it should live decentralized. If it's going to be decentralized, why do we shouldn't need any founders, right? Isn't that the idea? Lizard King says stock traders will never understand crypto. The brain seems not able to do both. I wouldn't be so sure about that. I think a lot of those guys look into crypto too. They might not, like the big funds won't talk about it publicly, but a lot of those individuals, you think they're not like looking for ways to make money on it, even if it's on their own time? I guarantee you they are. Let's see. Basically, Sylvan Macaulay created a new coinless blockchain. It means algo holders won't even get an airdrop. That's kind of funny. Snail says he does both. Lizard King said gifted. Grok, how will Algorand be used? Grok did not respond. Reason why blockchain is not accepted by institutions is precisely because of people like him. We pay them well, they screw us over and move on. Sounds like complete BS to me. Punk Rock says, how much money is this fiat chain going to take to build and who's paying for it? Well, that's a good question. He kind of said like right now it's just like technology, almost like it's an idea. So I don't really know. Vor Studio says, transparency has always been the Achilles heel of blockchain. Users want to see what others are doing without airing their own laundry. Yeah, that's kind of the point I've been making. I'm just not so sure. Because this fiat chain is still a public blockchain, by the way, which is why I think it's naive. Actually, I don't know that people are going to go for it. I think he might think they're going to go for it. I don't think they're going to go for it. I think the companies just don't want their I don't see why they want their laundry public. Why would they? You know, unless it benefits them in some way, I just don't see why it helps them. Do you realize we only care what is going on with Algorand? What kind of nonsense is this? Do you realize people have money invested in Algorand? Who's responsible for this tweet? I would like to know. I don't agree. Why would you not share this? This is relevant to Algorand. I want to know this. This is what's going on with Algorand. I think it's pretty significant if the founder of Algorand is proposing a new type of blockchain. That's a big deal. Web3 Wise is actually bullish on this, and he's wise.base.eth. That's interesting. Marco WTF. Starting to got the dude there having his White Russian. Stephanie said to Connor, you're absolutely amazing. I don't know who that is. Well, anyway, so that's the reactions to that. That's the new fiat chain, and the Algorand Foundation shared this today. Now, earlier I shared this thing with Jerry Chu, for the founder of Lofty, who kind of talked about some of the drama going on in Algorand and how to think about it. One thing that he said that I thought was super interesting. In fact, let me find that. Oops. Uno momento. Here it is. Yeah, this is what he said. He said a lot of criticism about Stacy specifically, but she had to come on a burning ship and try to put the fire out and then sail the ship to the promised land. This is hardly an easy task. I would argue she's done mostly well on putting out the fire. If what was said to me in the past were true, then I can say many of you are worshiping the wrong person and also blaming the wrong person. So who is that? This is all because one person is choosing to act with high integrity and not revealing a lot of stuff, because while revealing it would vindicate the person, they know it's not helpful to the ecosystem, and it certainly won't help the token price. So obviously he's talking about Stacy as the person with the integrity that's not revealing. But who is it about? Who is the person that many of you are worshiping? Who is the wrong person? Who is that? So I can think of two people that could be. That could be John Allen Woods, and that could be Silvio McCauley. And I don't know who else at Algorand that could be. It has to be one of those people, right? I kind of don't think it's John. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's John. So maybe it's Silvio. His snail says whoever keeps rugging. Yeah, maybe it's that. I want to know who that is. And he says, I will leave it at that. No, I won't elaborate further. Okay. There's got to be talking about Silvio. That's all I can think about. But he hasn't really been involved. So, and do people worship him? I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, like, all I ever see when I see his name mentioned is, oh, why won't he come back and talk? Lizard King says maybe it's an office pool. Yeah. They're all betting on it. So, yeah, I don't know. So I guess I kind of gave my thoughts on the fiat chain. I'm not very bullish on this at all. Snail says, I don't think it's either, more along the lines of Solana infiltrators. Oh, no, because, okay, I got to go back now. He says, if what was said to me in the past were true, then I can say that many of you are worshiping the wrong person. So who's the wrong person that we're all worshiping? I don't think it's going to be a Solana infiltrator. And I don't think she'd have a problem calling someone out. It has to be someone at the foundation. Because calling out a Solana infiltrator wouldn't affect anything. That wouldn't affect the price. Because he says here, like, they know it's not helpful to the ecosystem, and it certainly wouldn't help the token price. I mean, guaranteed he's talking about Stacy is the person with integrity that he's talking about. He's basically saying she's taking one for the team, for someone else, and their failures. I just don't see how it can be John. Yeah, I don't worship people either. I really haven't. You know, maybe worship is a strong word, but you know what he means is, like, we all do sing the praises of John Allen Woods. Many of us have. He doesn't really get, except for Kraken, he doesn't really get a lot of pushback, but Stacy does. But I don't think it's him. I think it's Silvio, and it's his absence, and especially now that he's starting this fiat chain, I get the impression a lot of foundation people are really frustrated by that. Okay. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. We should have better news for you. At least prices are starting to go back up a little bit, and hopefully they keep going in that direction. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm a little frustrated by all this, and I'm probably a little tired to formulate too many super coherent thoughts, but it's very interesting to me. I don't know what this is going to lead to. I don't know what this is going to look like. Snail says stay safe. I appreciate that, brother. You guys stay safe too. And definitely go watch my video on this today that I released today, because I think Jerry Chu had some really, really good points, and they're worth watching. It's kind of a long video. And so hang tight. Lizard King says stay, Q4 2025. So let's hope. Keep those fingers crossed. And otherwise, I'm Frugal BC.